Minecraft in the United States in one weekend made more money than Snow White has made globally after 3 weekends. That's how bad it is right now.
When we look, you can see families were more than willing to go to the box office to support something like the Minecraft movie, while Rachel Zegler's Snow White continues to plunge.
Goes something like this. Warner Brothers' Minecraft movie versus Disney's Snow White, which in theory should be quite a battle, but it's not even a fair fight, and it's pretty hysterical actually to watch. She's literally the only person there, and do you not understand how humiliating this is? Meanwhile, the experience at Minecraft...
We're talking about ultra-far leftists, people who believe that men and women are a figment of your imagination, that your money is not your own, that your family is not your own, and that your country is not your own. That's what woke me.
Now, there is no doubt about it that Snow White 2025 is considered by far one of the worst box office failures, not just with Disney, but also in the entire film history when it comes down to live-action remakes.
But it says, meanwhile, over in the kingdom of crumbling crowns, Disney's Snow White dropped like an enchanted apple.
What they really mean is they're describing a worldview that hates you, that hates everything America stands for.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
Saying that audiences will always line up to see her no matter what she does.
Every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
You know what's interesting?
Every single one of these reviews is just absolutely brutal. And what you also need to know is that these are not politically driven reviews. I mean, most of them are from the camp that should be supporting Disney, that should be behind this new progressive take on Snow White, and yet they can't because the film is apparently just that bad.
Famously played by the insufferable girl boss narcissist who's just clinical at this point.
You know, I don't need your business. You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it, you didn't direct it, you have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White. Right. You should shut up and do the job.
Interesting about all this is that the only person waiting in line to see Snow White was Rachel Zegler.
Well, we all basically knew that Snow White was going to be a massive failure at the box office because of Rachel Zegler's controversial statement.
It doesn't need a prince to save her, and not surrounded by 7 weird people. Oh, okay, just CGI fictional goblins, I guess.
Welcome back to Celebrity. It's Olivia here. It was supposed to be Disney's grand return to form. Snow White, reimagined, reborn, and led by a rising star. The legacy of Walt Disney's very first princess was meant to be a billion-dollar bulletproof plan. But something no one saw coming, a movie based on Minecraft, just stepped into the ring and didn't just throw a punch. It flattened her. One weekend. That's all it took for the Minecraft movie to make more money than Snow White could rake in across 3 full weeks worldwide. Before we peel back the layers of this wild unraveling, make sure to smash that like button and hit subscribe. If you love deep dives with no fluff, just facts, receipts, and a sprinkle of chaos, you're in the right place. And trust me, you won't believe how this one plays out. While Disney's Snow White gasped its way to a lukewarm $77 million, Minecraft roared past a stunning $300 million global debut. For perspective, that's not just a win, that's a massacre. Let that sink in. A film based on pixelated cubes, blocks, outpaced the live-action adaptation of one of the most iconic fairy tales of all time.
Whereas the Snow White model is the message ad infinitum, shoved directly up your ass, and, most importantly, in the most insufferable possible way, like screamed at you by an ugly woman for 2 hours.
Not just outpaced, obliterated it. And as the numbers came in, as the reviews poured out, something cracked. Not on screen, but behind it. Rachel Zegler, the new face of Snow White, allegedly broke down after seeing the cold, hard truth. Because this wasn't just a box office loss, this was a public execution. And Rachel, she wasn't holding the poisoned apple this time. She was the apple. But how did Disney, a studio that practically invented fairy tale magic, fall this far? And what role did Rachel play in turning a classic into chaos? Get ready, because what happens next isn't just messy, it's downright devastating. It started with whispers, then eye rolls, then full-blown backlash. But by the time Rachel Zegler stepped onto her first red carpet as Disney's new Snow White, the internet had already sharpened its knives.
Literally the only person there. And do you not understand how humiliating this is?
And of course, this weekend, Minecraft came out, which has absolutely dominated the box office, done significantly better than analysts even projected. And now we're finding out that Snow White has officially crossed $160 million.
She wasn't just the star of a legacy film. She became the face of a movement no one asked for. And it all unraveled with her own words. In interview after interview, Zegler didn't just modernize the story, she disrespected it. She called Prince Charming a stalker, labeled the original 1937 classic weird, scoffed at the romance that fans had adored for generations. This wasn't rebranding, this was burning the book. Audiences who grew up with Disney magic didn't see a heroine. They saw a cynical, detached performer who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else than in a fairy tale. And to be fair, Rachel didn't write the script. She didn't make the casting decisions, but she did light the fuse, and the explosion was brutal. Instead of stepping in to guide the narrative, Disney stood frozen, paralyzed by its own politics. Executives stayed silent.
So it got destroyed at the box office. Here's the box office numbers. The Minecraft movie made $60 million on Saturday. Snow White made $2 million.
Letting Zegler take hit after hit, all while the marketing campaign buried itself in a grave of its own making. No whimsy, no wonder, no enchantment. Just sound bites and side eyes. It wasn't long before fans turned their backs. Not just on Zegler, but on the movie itself. Theater seats sat empty, online discussions turned venomous. People weren't just disappointed, they felt betrayed. Because when you take a beloved classic, tear it apart, and hand it to someone who seems to loathe it, what reaction do you expect? But this wasn't just a casting misfire. It was the beginning of a brand identity crisis that would shake Disney to its core. And now, a new contender was rising. A silent assassin built of blocks and billions. While Disney's Snow White limped toward oblivion, something unexpected was happening just across the cinematic battlefield. A film many expected to flop, dismissed as too childish or too simple, was quietly loading its inventory, setting its traps, and preparing to strike. Its name? Minecraft. No princess, no crown. Just a blocky world, a bit of chaos, and an audience that didn't care about lectures. They came for fun, and fun is exactly what they got.
Turned over $157 million while earning another $144 million internationally. The Minecraft video game was introduced in 2011 and sold more than 300 million copies. So it actually has a fan base, user base, people that care about it. In theory, Snow White should as well. Snow White's the movie that made Disney, the studio. They should have been more cautious and careful with their own IP. It's a $1 billion IP. The Disney Snow White, faithfully adapted, would have made $1 billion.
When opening weekend arrived, theaters exploded with energy. Screaming kids, teens in Minecraft hoodies, entire families showing up like it was opening night of the next Avengers movie. Some theaters got so rowdy that security had to escort out overhyped viewers. It wasn't just a screening, it was an event. And the box office, unreal. $300 million. Opening weekend. In a single, effortless swing, Minecraft did what Snow White couldn't in 3, and it didn't have to insult its source material to do it. It didn't push a message, it didn't moralize. It simply gave the audience what they came for, a silly, adventurous ride that honored the spirit of the game. Critics panned it, called it juvenile. But audiences, they roared. 87% audience score, while Snow White barely clung to relevance.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
And suddenly, every smug prediction flipped on its head. The kids' movie with pixelated zombies had just sucker punched Disney's $1 billion gamble, and won. It wasn't just a victory, it was a warning. Because for all their lectures, rewrites, and rebranding, Disney had forgotten the one thing Minecraft remembered. Audiences don't want to be preached to. They want to play. But back in the Magic Kingdom, the meltdown was far from over. Because this defeat, it wasn't just about numbers anymore. It was getting personal. The walls at Disney HQ weren't just cracking, they were crumbling. Snow White wasn't just underperforming. It was collapsing, publicly, humiliatingly. And in the dead center of the wreckage stood Rachel Zegler, eyes red, voice shaking, watching her big break turn into a cautionary tale in real time.
So you had the marketing material not being all that good. A lot of advertisements were really mediocre for this film. And to top it off, they made tons of changes and they strayed away from the source material, which upset a lot of fans.
Behind closed doors, the blame game had begun. Executives pointed fingers at the writers, the marketing team, the casting department. But one name kept echoing louder than the rest. Rachel. She became the scapegoat. The face of Disney's biggest embarrassment in years. Her every word, every smug soundbite from pre-release interviews, now replayed like horror clips. The internet devoured them. Memes flooded timelines. Her statements weren't just tone deaf, they were weaponized. The prince is a stalker. The original is weird. It all came back to haunt her. But here's the twisted part. Rachel didn't greenlight the rewrites. She didn't rebrand a beloved fairy tale into a morality PSA. She didn't design the awkward trailers or approve the generic posters. She was just the loudest voice in the room and the easiest to take down.
And so let's see how they fared against each other. The Minecraft movie breaks box office record with $300 million global opening, while woke Snow White slips again. Minecraft movie was a big winner, debut weekend, $300 million.
So she cried, allegedly, behind closed doors and PR huddles, on damage control calls, not just for her career, but for the tidal wave of anger now rolling straight toward her. Meanwhile, audiences weren't interested in nuance. They didn't care who wrote what. All they saw was the girl who mocked the movie they once loved. Disney, once the gold standard of timeless charm, had dropped the crown. And Rachel? She'd been set up to catch it, but ended up wearing the blame like a curse. The empire was bleeding, the fans were livid, and the question that echoed through the chaos wasn't just, what happened? It was, can it ever be fixed? Somewhere in a parallel cinematic universe, another story was unfolding. One not burdened by politics, rebranding, or the crushing weight of 80 years of legacy. A story built not on glass slippers or poisoned apples, but on blocks. The Minecraft movie was everything Snow White wasn't. Loud, chaotic, completely self-aware, and most of all, fun.
Encouraging to see a movie that decided to do the opposite of Snow White, which is, according to all available reviews, including from the people that I trust the very most on this platform, it is non-political. The Minecraft movie does not try to beat you and box you about the ears with the message. It is just silly fun for kids, which is what a kids movie should be.
It didn't try to fix anything. It didn't apologize for its origins. It knew what it was and leaned into it like a kid diving into a lava pool with no armor. And the world responded. Parents brought kids, kids brought friends. Teens showed up in suits, yelling lines back at the screen. It was messy. It was silly. It was alive. Meanwhile, over in the Enchanted Woods, Snow White stood empty, literally. Theaters sat like tombs, with barely a soul to witness the princess who didn't want a prince, the dwarfs who weren't dwarfs, and a legacy so heavily reworked it was no longer recognizable. Disney had lost the plot. And what was once the most trusted name in family storytelling now felt like a brand grasping for approval from people who were never coming to the party in the first place. The final insult? Minecraft wasn't even trying to win. It didn't need an Oscar campaign or a social justice spin. It just wanted to make you laugh, to let you play, to remember what it felt like to go to the movies and escape. Snow White tried to evolve and lost everything in the process. Minecraft just stayed true to itself and won big.
Okay, and the cops had to escort the rowdy teenagers out. The Minecraft movie is doing something magical. It's creating a live audience reaction event where people are going to just be part of something to interact with the movie itself. The kind of thing that really creates like a kinetic movement.
In A Tale of Two Kingdoms, only one remembered what makes a story last forever: joy. But Disney's not done bleeding yet. Because what's happening behind the curtain might be even darker than what's played out on screen. Behind the scenes of the Magic Kingdom, the fairy tale was dead, and what remained was panic. Real boardroom shaking, stockholder terrifying panic. Inside Disney's executive towers, the knives were out. No more smiles, no more synergy, just rage, regret, and whispers of who let this happen. According to insiders, the chaos went nuclear. Some execs were furious the studio didn't pivot after Rachel Zegler's interviews went viral for all the wrong reasons. Others blamed the writers for doubling down on modernization, even after early screenings tanked.
You can see here the Minecraft movie is 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, 87% audience score. That's kind of all that matters because these people pay the bills, these people don't. This movie exists, by the way. You can't tell me Minecraft is the worst movie of 2025 when Snow White exists. That's right. Minecraft movies are going to make more in the weekend than Snow White's made in its entire theatrical.
The marketing department was called Out of Touch. Creative heads were labeled arrogant. Fingers pointed in every direction, but not a single hand reached for accountability. And in the middle of it all, the one thing that should have been untouchable, Disney's brand, was being torn apart by its own creators. This wasn't just about a movie flopping. This was about the erosion of trust. The people Disney once proudly called their core audience, the families, the fans, the diehards, felt betrayed. They weren't just skipping Snow White. They were abandoning the kingdom altogether. Worse, Disney still didn't get it.
Teens in suits shouting lines, cheering, like it was a concert. Check out the energy, unreal. Disney Snow White is flopping hard. Why did Minecraft win? Because they stayed true to their actual audience. If Disney had made a faithful adaptation to the original Snow White, it would have made $1 billion.
They saw the outrage and shrugged. They saw the empty theaters and spun excuses. They watched Minecraft clean up at the box office and said nothing. Because acknowledging defeat would mean admitting the real truth. That they'd lost touch. That they'd traded storytelling for sermons. That they'd taken the most sacred of their properties, the very first Disney princess, and turned her into a brand exercise nobody wanted.
Itself. We keep blaming Rachel Zegler, and she's an easy scapegoat. And I think they're scapegoating her on purpose. But the entire movie was trash. All of Rachel Zegler didn't write Snow White. Right? Rachel Zegler didn't cast Snow White. The studio did. It's a Disney problem. Disney did these things.
Now, the empire Walt built is being held together by glitter and denial. And the real question isn't just, how did they let this happen? It's, what will they destroy next? Once upon a time, a young girl with skin white as snow sang into a wishing well and launched the most powerful entertainment empire the world had ever seen.
Now, nearly a century later, that same story has been dragged out, twisted beyond recognition, mocked by its own star, and buried beneath a mountain of failed expectation and bad decisions. This isn't just a flop. And the one thing more shocking than Snow White's box office death is Disney's refusal to accept it. Instead of humility, they offer spin. Instead of course correction, they double down. The critics are too harsh. The fans are resistant to change. Rachel Zegler is misunderstood. But no one inside the House of Mouse is asking the one question that could actually save them. What if the audience is right? What if people don't hate new ideas? They just hate being talked down to. What if legacy matters? What if storytelling comes before messaging? What if people still want wonder and not lectured? As the Minecraft movie sails toward box office legend, and Rachel Zegler becomes the face of one of the most infamous PR collapses in modern film, one thing is clear: authenticity wins. And fairy tales, real fairy tales, don't need to be fixed. They just need. Disney's failure wasn't just, it was cultural. They forgot who their audience, and they crowned a new Snow White who never believed in the magic to. So now we ask, is this the beginning of a darker chapter, or is it finally the wake-up call they can't ignore? Drop your thoughts below and tell me, is this the moment Disney's fairy tales stopped being magic?